Thanks for stopping by at Twisted Art Designs. Today I'm going to do this fun page in my Favorite Things art journal project. And the prompt is, what is your favorite clothing or shoes or both? So let's get started and I'll show you how I created this fun layout. So to start my page, I'm going to put a layer of acrylic paint, and then I'm going to do a really fun and funky kind of a Tisha Moore style border. And I'm going to use this image from a magazine. I'm going to use some a Dina Wakley face stamp. I've got an image I printed off the internet. I'm going to add to that. So that's what I'm going to use, and now let's get started. And the first thing I'm going to do is just put down my base acrylic layer. And I know you've all have seen me do this a million times, so I won't film the whole thing, but I like to use a soft sponge that's lightly damp, a little bit of paint, and just start building up my background layers. So what I do is the first layer I usually swirl it on just to get some paint, thin paint down. And then the second layer, after this one dries, the second layer I start to add the same color back in and I bounce it on to make it look marble. That's just my process, and sometimes I add a second or third color doing the same thing. And I keep layering it up until I like how it looks. So that's what I do for my base layer. Another little fun trick, I use these Dina Wakley paints, and if you've got your soft flat sponge, just lightly damp, and you take your Dina Wakley paints and you make like a swirl. Just swirl your paint onto your sponge. Then you can put that on the background. It almost makes it like a stamp. So you're stamping that swirled image onto your background. Next, I'm going to add a border using some punched circles. I keep a stash of them, and whenever I'm going through a magazine or anything where it's got a pretty texture and it's just a little tiny scrap of paper, I grab one of my punches of various sizes that it's a circle, and I punch things out and just throw them in this bag. So then I have a really fun variety of things to choose from. As you can see, this is from the packaging from Dina Wakley, but look at that cute face. That's just a cute thing to add. Or this little tiny bird came from a Daphne's Diary magazine. So it's just things that would normally get tossed. I punch into circles and toss into this bag and use them later for borders. So I'm going to grab out some colorful ones and some interesting ones and start to create a fun border. And a fun tip to mention is when you're doing a border and you're laying out things like this, like I'm laying out circles. If I put a blue one over here, then I put a blue one somewhere over here. And I've mentioned this in other videos as well, but your layout, like these circles, these yellow circles, let me zoom back out a little bit. These yellow circles, I'm putting one over here, so I'm going to put one on this page over here. And what that does is it carries your eye around your layout. It makes it visually appealing to your brain, and so when you look at it, it makes your eye travel all the way around your page. Now that I have my circles in place, kind of clustered in the way I want them, leaving space for my focal images, I'm going to go ahead and use some TriArt matte gel medium and a brush and put them down. So obviously you start with the things that are underneath, so you want to glue down the image that you want behind, and then if you want one that's overlapping it, then obviously you'd put that one on next. And I'm just going to randomly glue down my images in their little groupings. Now I'm going to take my scissors and just trim off the circles that hang over the edge. I always turn to the back side so that you can easily see what you need to cut off and trim. So I'm going to trim those, and then I'm going to take a Posca pen and do some doodling around these circles to create the border, and I'll show you what it looks like. So what I'm doing is taking my paint pen and I'm going around the right side of all the circles, connecting them, and then on this side I'm going to fill those in behind along the edge of the page with black. So my border is going to go around the circles, and I'm going a little far out because I'm going to add some polka dots to those. But I'm just going around the circles and connecting them and making a fun border. And then when I get to the next edge, I'm going to do some scallops until I get to the next grouping and continue that on like that. Here's what it looks like with the blue border and then the black behind it around the edges. I like it. It's really cute and coming together. So now I'm going to take a white Posca pen and I'm going to make dots all along that blue border. Look at what a fun, cute border that makes using those circles that I punch out from leftovers of magazines and scrapbook papers and all kinds of things. And I look for fun textures and interesting colors, and look at what a fun border that makes. So give that a try. Super fun, and I like the dot border around the edge, so this gives me a fun place to put my focals. And before I move on, I need to give thanks. Thank you to Lindsay. She did a donation to buy me a cup of coffee, and then to Mindy, who did a tip to my tip jar. I appreciate everything and the support that I get. It helps me for upcoming projects, and I do have some fun and interesting projects in the works that I can't wait to announce. So thank you, and let's move on. I'm going to use my girl from the magazine right here. And my shoes, what I need to do with my image of my shoes is I need to fussy cut them out, and they're going to go here. And then I'm going to take a Dina Wakley stamp. This is a cute little stamp set she's got. In this particular image, I like to draw my own faces and do my own drawings, but this face that is in her stamp set kind of looks like me, and that's what I'm going for with this. So I'm going to go ahead and stamp this with Ranger Archival ink just onto a white piece of cardstock so that I can cut it out and add it to my body. As I'm cutting away my shoe image, I am choosing to cut the inside of the shoe out. I'm not adding that part. I'm cutting it away, so I'm just leaving the back edge of the shoe. And the reason for that is so that when I put this down on my page, I can draw legs coming out of the shoes. I cut out the Dina Wakley image that I stamped, and she fits perfectly into my design. I love it because she does look a lot like me, so that'll be really fun. I'm going to use matte gel medium to apply these images down to the book. I apply matte gel medium to the back of the image and then to the book, and then the image will stick down a lot flatter and will be less likely to have wrinkles in it. Especially works well for thin paper and thin magazine images. So put a layer to the back side of your image and to the book. And you get a nice smooth image glued down with no wrinkles. So now this is dry, I'm going to take my pencil and I'm going to go back in here and I'm going to draw in the legs. So you'd have the ankle, and then the leg coming up, and then the calf. And then same with this one, you'd have the ankle. And the calf. And then the front part of the leg. And I think first I'm going to go over them with my Tombow Mono drawing pencil pen in an 08 size, just to get those base shapes down permanently. These are my favorite drawing pens because they're super waterproof. I drew lines across and did capri pants in black because that's more me, and I'm using a Molotow paint pen, and this is in a kind of a skin tone-y color. So I'm going to go in and color the legs this color, and then I'll go back in, I think, and do some shadowing with some colored pencils. So I'll color that in and then show you the colored pencil work. So I have colored that in with my paint pen. I did the face and the neck, and now I'm using Lyra Rembrandt Polycolor colored pencils in brown ochre, medium flesh, pink Mater Lake, light flesh, and white. And I'm going to just use those to add some shading to the skin tones. I mean, it is cartoon looking, but I want it to just be just a touch more realistic than just the flat paint. Everything has a shadow and a highlight on it. So I thought I should put them in. I love colored pencils, and I like how they add depth to what you're doing. And on the face, I can go in and add a little bit of cheek color over here. A little lip color. And some shadow on the neck. And some shadows where her hair would be. Casting a shadow over her face. Then it makes that forehead look rounder instead of flat. And this is the side away from the light, so I want to go darker over here. Your light source is coming this way, so your nose would cast shadow on this side. And a little white on the forehead just to make it blend out a little bit and stand out. And I have blue eyes, so I'm going to use a Faber-Castell Pit Artist pen and just add in the blue color to give her blue eyes. I'm trying to make her look sort of like me. And I have gray-white hair that's just lightly cast with a little bit of a champagne cast to it. So I'm taking a warm gray, and I'm just going to come in here to this hair and add some details and some shading. So it'll still look like white hair, but it will have a little cast to it. I think I'm going to go with a little darker tone in some of the spots. Okay. And that looks like my hair. Next I'm going to take my Uniposca paint pen and I'm going to outline the girl and the shoes. I like the look of them outlined. It pulled that magazine image in to make it match the stamped image of the face. I like that. So now what I'm going to do is just do my lettering and put my words onto the page. So I added the words, "There's nothing better than a warm, comfy hoodie and my Converse sneakers." Now what I like to do is to take a Faber-Castell Pitt Artist pen and do a drop shadow behind my letters. So off to the side, I do a shadow along the letters. And it just makes them stand out a little bit more. Not sure if you can see that. I have a video on lettering and I'll put that in the description box below. I took an orange Posca pen and I went around the word hoodie and around the word Converse just to make them stand off the page, since they're really the focal of this. And what I like to do to make my letters pop too is to go into the inside part of letters that are closed in and color them in white. It just makes the letters really stand out even more. Let me show you what that looks like. See the word Converse? That just makes it stand out even more. So I'm going to do that on the word Converse and the word hoodie. So another thing I like to do is to take a fine liner. This is a Statler. Actually, no, it's a Stabilo fine liner. I have a couple different brands. And do some doodling in the background with some fine liner pens. It's not as standout as a Posca paint pen, so it kind of stays in the background a little bit more than a paint would. It's just personal preference. But it's fun to go back in then and do some doodling. So I'm going to go ahead and do some doodling in my background, and then I'll show you what it looks like. I added some doodling with my fine liner pens. And now what I'm going to do is take a charcoal pencil. This is just a General's charcoal pencil, and my shadow's on this side. So I'm going to go ahead and put in some charcoal along this side. And I'm using a paintbrush that I just cut off and I made into like a little scrubber. I cut my bristles off short, and it makes this a great blender for going in and blending out that charcoal. It kind of just scrubs it out and blends it. Let me zoom in a little bit here. And it just makes a really nice soft shadow on that side. You can add more if you want more. Put kind of a heavier shadow on that side. And on this side of her leg. And you get that nice little shadow effect. So I'm going to do that over here too. Go along that left side of the shoes and the legs. And then scrub it out. I used to use a Stabilo pencil, but I like charcoal a lot better because it's easier to blend out and it's a softer shadow. So I use that instead of Stabilo. It's so easy to just apply it and blend it. You could use a blending stump too, but I like my little cut-off paintbrush. But look at how nice that is. It makes it just look like there's a shadow beneath the shoes. And I decided I'm going to go ahead and connect where I did that border of blue around my circles. I'm going to go ahead and connect them to the rest of this border because it's just needing something there. So I'm going to take the same color in my paint pen and add that border along those edges until I connect to those circles. And then I'll go in and put the white dots in it the same. But I think that, yeah, that looks better to just have that all be connected. Here's how it came out, and I'm so happy with this page. Sometimes when you art journal, things just come together the way you want them to, and I had a vision in my head for this, and it came out even better than I had envisioned. I love the sneakers, and then the legs that I drew to go into the sneakers just completed that, and the stamp that I used to make the face that kind of looks like me, and it's just too fun. The circle border, it turned out really fun, and so these are my favorite clothing and shoes. So now it's your turn to use that prompt and make an art journal page in your My Favorite Things art journal of what are your favorite clothes to wear or your favorite shoes. So hope you're having fun, and maybe this showed you a couple of tips, tricks, or techniques that you didn't know, and you can give a try in your art journal. And I'll put a link below for the prompts for all the videos in the playlist for making this My Favorite Things art journal. And you can start the project at any time and finish it at any time. Go at your own pace. It's just something fun to do. So grab an art journal and make yourself an art journal that is all about your favorite things. Thanks for stopping by at Twisted Art Designs, and go make some art today, because art soothes the heart.